Hello guys, you are seeing Prime News Australia, where we show you the latest and important news of Australia in the fastest and reliable way. So come, let's start by not delaying. 25 big updates of the Australia, especially for you. Before proceeding in the video, comment by commenting from which state you are watching, and also like video, so that YouTube can reach this video to more people of Australia. Tropical Cyclone Alfred, now a Category 2 system, has stalled approximately 250 to 280 kilometers east of Brisbane, slowing its approach to Australia's east coast. The erratic movement delays landfall until early Saturday, raising risks of life-threatening flooding, destructive winds reaching 155 kilometers per hour, storm surges and rainfall exceeding 800 millimeters in isolated areas. Millions in southern Queensland and northern NSW face evacuations, school closures, airport shutdowns, and widespread power outages as residents frantically sandbag homes and stockpile essentials. Prime Minister Anthony Albanese confirmed 3 Australian Defence Force personnel were aboard a U.S. submarine that torpedoed and sank an Iranian warship in international waters off Sri Lanka amid escalating Middle East conflict. The disclosure came during National Security Council briefings, highlighting Australia's limited but present involvement. The government deploys military assets and consular teams to support stranded citizens as U.S.-Israel strikes on Iran intensify regional tensions and disrupt global shipping. Australia's share market experienced sharp declines due to surging oil prices triggered by the Iran conflict, with the S&P ASX 200 falling over 1% early today, following massive weekly losses potentially exceeding $100 billion. Energy and banking sectors show volatility, while investors brace for inflation spikes from prolonged Middle East instability affecting trade routes, energy supplies, and Australian exports in an already uncertain global economic environment. The deadline for registering in Australia's largest ever robo-debt class action settlement arrives today at 4 p.m. Gordon Legal urges thousands of affected former welfare recipients to act quickly to secure compensation from the unlawful debt recovery scheme overturned in landmark 2020 and 2024 rulings against the Commonwealth Government. Canadian Prime Minister Mark Carney addressed a joint sitting of Australia's Parliament in Canberra, warning middle powers like Australia and Canada risk subordination by superpowers amid rising global tensions. He advocated stronger alliances, critical technology investments, free trade protection, and human rights commitments during discussions with PM Albanese on de-escalation in the Middle East and broader geopolitical challenges. Queensland authorities banned 2 specific anti-Israel slogans in public spaces amid heightened domestic tensions linked to the Middle East war. The decision aims to preserve community safety and reduce protest-related incidents, but has ignited debates over freedom of speech limits as demonstrations and community divisions grow across the country. Emotional scenes unfolded at Sydney Airport as the first repatriation flight from Dubai landed with around 200 Australians fleeing the Middle East conflict. Despite high demand, some evacuation flights depart half-empty due to logistical hurdles, prompting government frustration and intensified efforts to coordinate returns amid widespread commercial flight cancellation. Meteorologists monitor a developing low-pressure system in the Coral Sea with potential to intensify into a tropical cyclone, threatening Queensland's north coast. Forecasts predict heavy rainfall, up to 300 millimeters from Cooktown to Townsville, compounding national weather pressures alongside the separate eastern threat from Cyclone Alfred. Australia proposes raising the luxury car tax threshold from approximately $80,000 to at least $100,000 as a key concession to finalize a free trade agreement with the European Union. The adjustment would ease imports for brands like BMW and Mercedes-Benz, strengthening economic ties and addressing long-standing trade barriers. Treasurer Jim Chalmers convened roundtable discussions with economists to address budget 2026 preparations amid global shocks from the Middle East war. He emphasized maintaining economic stability while managing inflation, cost of living pressures, and potential sharp petrol price increases up to 40 cents per liter due to disrupted oil supply. The Matildas secured a convincing 5-0 victory over Iran in the Women's Asian Cup Group A match on home soil. Alana Kennedy netted a brace, with additional goals from Mary Fowler and Amy Sayer, bolstering Australia's campaign and showcasing dominant form in the tournament. A persistent tropical low over central Australia continues causing severe flooding in western Queensland, isolating remote towns like Bedourie for potentially months. Record rainfall drains slowly through vast catchments, severing major roads and infrastructure in typically arid regions during an extended wet season impact. Utilities and emergency services warn of imminent widespread blackouts as Cyclone Alfred's gales and heavy rain approach. Preparations include extensive sandbagging, emergency supply stockpiling, and declarations across affected regions, with millions in Brisbane, Gold Coast, and northern NSW bracing for prolonged disruptions. Climate experts highlight how warmer ocean temperatures may intensify Cyclone Alfred's impacts, drawing parallels to rare historical East Coast cyclones, like 1974's Zoe. The storm's unusually slow progression dramatically increases flood risks in densely populated southeastern Queensland and northern NSW areas, seldom affected by tropical systems. North Queensland residents prepare for significant rainfall of 50 to 100 millimeters or more from an approaching tropical low, with rising cyclone formation risks potentially bringing coastal impacts by week's end. This adds complexity to the national weather outlook dominated by Cyclone Alfred. Prime Minister Anthony Albanese explicitly ruled out calling an early federal election, prioritizing Cyclone Alfred recovery efforts in disaster-affected states. The decision avoids campaign distractions during critical relief operations and focuses resources on immediate community support and infrastructure restoration. Some Australian share market sectors show modest recovery after recent heavy selling, with banks and energy stocks gaining ground as bargain hunters step in. However, overall weekly losses remain substantial amid ongoing uncertainty from Middle East oil disruptions and geopolitical risks. Repatriation operations for tens of thousands of Australians stranded by Middle East hostilities continue, supported by ADF aircraft deployments and 6 consular crisis teams. Challenges persist with airspace closures and flight disruptions, but successful returns provide relief to affected families. Treasurer Jim Chalmers directed the ACCC to closely monitor fuel prices following Middle East-driven oil price surges. Authorities urge against panic buying as potential sharp increases loom, with broader economic ripple effects expected on inflation and household budgets. Formula One Australian Grand Prix organizers at Albert Park express confidence in proceeding despite global travel uncertainties from the Iran conflict. Preparations for the season opener continue, with teams focusing on track performance amid minimal anticipated direct impacts on the event. Sydney's sewage infrastructure faces renewed scrutiny after discovery of a massive fatberg partly attributed to flushed wet wipes. The subterranean blockage highlights persistent consumer behavior issues, contributing to environmental and maintenance challenges for urban utilities. Speculation mounts over One Nation leader Pauline Hanson's political influence ahead of upcoming by-elections, including in rural seats. Shifting voter sentiment and party dynamics may test support levels in key regional areas amid broader national political developments. Cultural promotions feature singer Troye Sivan in luxury pairings with Penfolds wines, highlighting March's vibrant arts and entertainment calendar. Such collaborations reflect ongoing interest in Australian creative exports during a busy season. Book recommendation lists dominate cultural coverage for March, spotlighting top Australian fiction and non-fiction titles. Heightened reader interest in local stories coincides with increased media focus on domestic narratives amid global events. Western Australia braces for price increases across groceries, petrol, furniture, and other goods due to Middle East conflict disruptions, closing key European trade routes. The economic fallout from regional instability threatens supply chains and consumer costs nationwide.